Hello again. Should Christians participate in voting and elections, and should they participate in supporting political candidates? Hi, I'm Keith Slough from Ambassador Christian College. There are actually churches that suggest that it's somehow a sin for a Christian to participate in government. That's hard to believe, I know, for most of you, but there are some groups and some that are labeled as cults, and well so, that for other reasons, for theological reasons, some who don't believe in the deity of Christ, for example, and other kinds of doctrines, but there are churches that actually teach that Christians should not be involved in the political process. Now, in an audience like I have here over the radio program and over this radio station, there are probably any number of people who are Republicans and Democrats, and of course independents. I myself am registered as independent, but I do vote, and I tell people you should vote. One young man, African American fella, he was, in his mid-20s at the time, I think, when he told me this. He said, in the African American churches, they tell us it's our patriotic duty to vote, but they don't tell us what the issues are. He said, I voted for Obama, but I didn't know he was pro-abortion and pro-same-sex marriage. I didn't know that. He learned it later. And but he said, I just vote a straight Democrat ticket. Well, some people will just vote for the party rather than the platform. What is amazing to me is that so many people will go to church and raise their hands and say, oh, how I love Jesus. But then when they go to the polls, they'll vote pro-abortion. Now, I don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican or what is it, Libertarian, I think, or whatever party it might be, or socialist like Bernie Sanders, who is actually being sponsored by the Democrat Party, as I'm doing this program in the year 2020, which is an election year. But it doesn't matter what party it is. You need to find out what that candidate stands for. There are Republicans, most of them, I think, are pro-life, but then you've got some people that, you have to wonder about them. You've got some that are called not conservatives, but moderates. And I suppose there are even a few liberal Republicans that actually are more like the Democrats. They call them rhinos. But should you, as a Christian, participate in the political process? Well, the answer is yes, because the scriptures show that Joseph was a man of God, and God even inducted him into the government of Egypt. And that was a pagan, heathen, non-Christian government. But that's one of the best things they ever had happen to him, is to have a good man, a godly man like Joseph to be in charge. And then you have the pagan, absolutely heathen empire of Babylon. And God inducted Daniel there as prime minister of Babylon. In fact, the king the king of Babylon, promoted him very highly. And while Nebuchadnezzar was on a 7-year hiatus, where he was insane for 7 years, Daniel basically ran the kingdom. Now, God never condemned Daniel for that, never condemned Joseph for that. In fact, we get the impression that God himself put Daniel in charge. And of course, you had Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they were serving in political offices. Some people say it's an absolute sin for a Christian to run for a political office. Wouldn't it be wonderful that if everybody who ran for some sort of public office was a born-again, Holy Spirit-filled, Jesus-loving Christian who would do right by the American people and not just be selfish for his own party? You know, a lot of people, a lot of Democrats got turned off by the impeachment process when they were trying to impeach Donald Trump in 2019 and early 2020 because they saw them as being more partisan, more just for their party's benefit than rather for the country's benefit. And while the needs of the country, the budget, and there's all kinds of other things that need to be addressed by Congress was being put aside to do something that they already knew wasn't going to work out. Isn't that interesting? Well, there are people who are selfish in every occupation, including doctoring and dentistry and even ministry. There are people that are selfish. That's just human nature. But it's bad. I would like to see more Christians, true Christians, Bible-believing Christians, get involved in politics. I'd even thought about it at one time, but I don't have time. My ministry is full-time, and I stay very busy. I run a Bible college and as well as this radio ministry here and our literature program, which is way behind. And if you're waiting for some literature that you've heard advertised, please be patient with us. We'll try to get that out to you. But yeah, I stay busy, and I don't have time to be involved in government. But there are some that do. And there are retired pastors out there who may be very, very godly men who ought to consider running. Maybe one of you in my audience should run for public office. Maybe you ought to pray about it and seek God's will. Because it would be great if everybody who ran for public office who was elected would be born-again Christians. But look at the electorate. Look at the people who are filling in the little ovals with the pencil or pulling the lever, depending on their state, how they elect people. Look at the people who are doing it. So many of them are godless, agnostic people, some of them atheist, many of them agnostic, and many, many of them irreligious altogether, who have never darkened the door of a church in their entire life. And they're voting for people that they like, people that are just like them. And that's not good sometimes. So that's why we get people like, the governor of Virginia who said, let's let a baby be born and then decide what we're going to do with it, if we want to keep it alive or just go ahead and kill it or let it die and not do anything to save its life. I mean, what type of idiocy, what type of godlessness is that? Well, how did he get to be in that office? The people of Virginia voted to put that man in office, knowing what his platform was. Now, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm not telling you what party to vote for. But I'm saying this, before you vote for a party, for a person who belongs to a party, or for a particular candidate, find out what they stand for, because you see, and by the way, for those of you who are true Christians and conservative, Bible-believing, Christ-loving Christians, you're just turning it over to the devil if you don't do your part. Listen. The book of Proverbs says, don't withhold good when it's in the power of your hand to do it. If we could save lives, if we could get enough pro-life people involved in government, if we could, we might be able to overturn the abortion laws to make it illegal to kill American children in this country. And that's exactly what we have here. It's murder on demand, and it's legal. And I was just reading to our class just Thursday night, to our bachelor's class. We were in 2 Kings as I'm doing this program. And I was reading to them about how Manasseh was such an evil and the most wicked king that the Jews ever had. He was the most wicked, and it said he shed very much innocent blood in the city of Jerusalem. And they didn't even have several million people in Manasseh's day, so all the innocent blood he shed didn't even begin to be compared to the innocent blood Americans have shed. Somewhere like 4,000 little babies are exterminated every single day, not year, day in this country. And that is, listen, let me tell you something. I'm not a prophet, but I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. If this country does not turn around and turn back to God, this country will fall. Now, I'm a patriot, and I love my country, and I hope you do too. But if we don't turn this thing around, if we don't get enough Christians to get off the couch and go vote, and vote not just their party, but vote for the right issues. If you're voting for candidates who are pro-abortion, who want to extend abortion all the way to the day of delivery, like the governor of Virginia does, and there are others, if you want to do that if you're voting for people like that, let me tell you, Jesus Christ is the judge, and he will judge all such. In John chapter 5 and verse 22, Jesus said, the Father judges no man, but he's committed all judgment to the Son. The Son of God will one day judge you for how you vote, because that's part of the way you live. It's true when you hear ministers in pulpits say that we will be judged by the way we live, but a part of the way that we live is how we vote, or if we vote, if we take the time. You know, it is true that your vote doesn't count. I'm talking to one person now. Your one vote really is not going to change anything. But when 1 million Christians sit at home throwing popcorn in their mouth and watching a video instead of going to vote because they say, well, my vote doesn't count. When 1 million Christians, or maybe 2 or 3 million, will sit there and say, my vote doesn't count. You see the problem? It does count. One thing that everybody agreed with what Bill Clinton said in 2001 when the election occurred. Remember, 2000, there was an election. George W. Bush barely got it by a few hundred, and I think finally when they added it all up, it was like 1,000 votes or something. And Bill Clinton said no one can ever say again that their vote doesn't count, because it was just neck and neck, which is really kind of a shame. It really is, that there has to be that many people. Somebody is wrong. 50% of the American people is wrong. Now, whether you think it's the Democrats or the Republicans, somebody's wrong, because those two men were very, very different on issues. No, I'm not telling you how to vote, but I will tell you how I vote. I vote pro-life and pro-family values, and that means I have to vote conservative. And for those of you who won't do that, that's a shame. You remember, I've seen now the State of the Union addresses by Donald Trump, and the one he did in the election year of 2020, he even made a statement that for sure the Democrats would have jumped up and applauded and giving a standing ovation. He said, we're going to help out the black colleges. We're going to help them and increase funding. We're going to do all these wonderful things to help the African-American population. And the Republicans stood up and applauded, and the camera showed the Democrats just sitting there. A lot of those ladies, some of them African-Americans, I guess, I don't know, but they were sitting there in their white outfits, and they wouldn't applaud. They wouldn't even sit down and applaud, much less stand up. Now, I thought for sure they'd have stood for that. And when they had a man there who was 100 years old, and he was part of the airmen of World War II, and he was considered an American hero, and the Republicans, he's an African-American, and they gave him a great applause, and the Democrats ignored him. I'm sitting there thinking, are there Democrats watching this? Are there African Americans watching this speech? Do they see that the Democrats are not supporting them? And yet back in 2008 when Obama ran for president, they said at that time that 93% of African Americans would vote for him. And I have to ask this question. Is there something wrong with that picture when the Republicans are doing more for African Americans than the Democrats are? What in the world is this insanity? Well, I'm out of time today, but I will tell you this. You need to get into the Bible and find out what it says. You need to start reading your Bible every day. And if you're not a Christian, you ought to come to Jesus Christ and ask Him to forgive you, and ask God the Father to forgive you, and ask Jesus to be your Lord and Savior, and let Him show you how you should live, how you should work, how you should vote, and how you should live a true Christian life before your neighbors and your family and your friends. Jesus Christ wants you to do the right thing, and He's judging you. Now, some of you may be listening and you don't believe that. You don't think that Jesus is ever going to judge you. You live any way you want to. Or you may think He just doesn't care how you live and how you vote. But one day, after you die, Hebrews 9:27, it's appointed to every man to die once, from old age, if nothing else, but everybody's going to die. But after this, the judgment. And folks, that's something you need to really fear if you're not living right. I'm out of time. Here's an article I'd like to send you. What happens after death has nothing to do with this program, but we've been advertising this and people have found it interesting. What really does happen after death according to the Bible? Judgment happens, but do you go to heaven or purgatory or limbo or whatever? This article is free of charge. Here's the telephone number to call if you'd like to get it. What happens after death? And learn about being judged. Here's the telephone number, 704-938-6415. There is no request for money. We just want to bless you. 704 is the area code. The number is 938-6415. And just ask for the article, What Happens When You Die. I'll know which one you mean. We'll get that in the mail to you. One more time, the telephone number to call, it's absolutely free of charge, is 704-938-6415. Call today or anytime during this week. Be sure you spell out your name and address and your street address. Most importantly, spell out your street address. Make sure we have your zip code. Until next time, this is Keith Slough from Ambassador Christian College. Thanks for listening.